The demand is always there, sir, and farmers had a sustainable soil management system before the Green Revolution. Once we started giving inputs externally, then they forgot how to manage their own soils, and soil fertility management has become an external input factor, and it also had a cost inbuilt of the farmers. And with the present scenario of not having the farm animals also, and mechanization and many other challenges, even the stubble burning that we are seeing as a challenge, definitely somewhere this whole scenario is lost. The sustainable, indigenous, and this kind of independence of the farmers is lost in the process. Now we are trying to enhance the system, including biochar was an integral part of the farmers. It is not a new, the jargon might be new that we have introduced the trends since 2007. It doesn't mean even before people existed on this earth, the biochar material was there. I have a small brief presentation, sir, so that it can bring up how we can bring this particular aspect of biochar back into the communities on a large scale with the participation of the communities. So can I start the presentation? I'll try to be, as I said, this biochar, unless somebody wants to blend with some synthetic materials and try to bring as a new brand called biochar, then it's a business model. Otherwise, it's a natural material and a sustainable material in the past. And the science and technology, yes, they are working a lot, but still, even when I am listening to the experts, the expression about the biochar, so there are lots of variations in the jargon, and we need to demystify the knowledge and technologies around this. And it is the most simplest technology as far as I know, having worked with communities. And around this, it should be community centric, whatever the business model that we are developing. And ultimately, the business is to serve the communities on a large scale. This is what we should look at. But here, what is most important is why the things are not taking up so much is because of so many other things. That is, the policy also is very much required. Our policy is more towards chemical aspects in agriculture, let us say urea or many other things that we are supplying under subsidies. But this kind of thing for the governments to adopt and to facilitate, there is a lot of and also research. Yes, the agriculture universities and all that, also they might have observed this kind of phenomena happening in the field level, but it was never adopted so much with so much interest in the research aspect. So ultimately, this whole thing addresses because the environmental issues, livelihoods, and also the physical, biological, and chemical aspects of the soil also. So we need to look at this thing. And what is most important in this business model is, which people are forgetting, is whether we should go this ALFRED WEBER'S least cost theory of industrial transportation. This is the simplest thing that anybody can apply. The centralized systems, especially, which people are thinking, because raw material is mostly in the rural areas, which is right from stubble or crop residue or forest litter, whatever it might be. But carrying this material using the fossil fuels as a transportation means to a centralized manufacturing facility, and for the sake of saying selling as a product, again packing and branding and selling, this is a very big issue, sir. And volume wise, yes, biochar doesn't shrink much because it's a porous material. By volume wise, it will be almost all the same. But the ratio of weight of the raw biomass, especially when it is converted, that is also some percentage based on the efficiency of the technology. And in rural areas, we have cheap labor and other things. So I prefer this biochar business, or the production and everything should be in the decentralized, and it should be like ubiquitous kind of nature. Then only it can sustain in the future. And of course, the biochars are varying because of based on the types of feedstocks, and also similarly based on the feedstock, the technologies are also varying. They are not the same. So this is also an important aspect. And this, as I said, there are various types of biomass that are available, and we have 800 million tons of biomass that is burnt or even cotton stalks and Prosopis juliflora, which is exotic, and rice husk, it is a major source, and other biomass that is already available, which people had been using. But the cost of this biochar is varying, and right from this $0.08 to like $13.48 per kg. So it is a very highly variable factor. Maybe people are thinking we could produce very cheap in India and sell it to some developed country where they could pay higher price. So people are seeing it as a miraculous thing. So they are some are ready to pay. So that's why the variation is so different. It's highly variable. And here ultimately the business means they have some trade secret. This is the most fundamental question. What is the, are we trying to demystify this whole thing, or are trying to create more trade secrets for the sake of business? Because once it is open, it is not a business. Because they are not public information in a business. Their secrecy provides an economic benefit to their holder. Their secrecy is actively protected. So here in this whole context, I want this whole business of biochar should be open knowledge, which I am a strong advocate also on this issue. And marketing aspects, even if somebody looks at this Kotlas, this 5 P's are there now. So here product, price, place, promotions and purpose like that, and as well as awareness, acceptance and accessibility, all these things need to be worked out simultaneously, and the details I'm not going for lack of time. But who is there in the biochar businesses presently? It is mostly from the America, especially North America, I mean, and some European countries, they have entered into picture recently. Then Australia and New Zealand, they are going very strongly. Even government, their respective governments are also supporting this issue. And this whole business expansion is happening now into Asian countries, especially Pacific Asia and all these regions. And slowly again into Africa and Latin America, it will expand. So biochar production technologies, now whatever they are existing, the centralized, or what we say, the technology, the best technologies that are very few. Most of the technologies are as a byproduct, they are taking it and using it. But producing on a large scale and able to sell, those things are not happened. Otherwise, very small technologies are already existing, or traditional technologies. So some of the simple technology which I have designed for my farmers, I am presenting here. Apart from the earth mount technology, very old one that is existing already. So these technologies can be improved, and we could decentralize these technologies at the farmer level or at community level. And the sustainability of biochar culture, I tried to coin this term because it's an integration into traditional and local practices that should be encouraged. And to produce and use biochar is locally available raw materials, is which is, it should be sustainable also. And biochar blends that we would do, or biochar compost, or various things which we add on, that should be organic and natural. Then it is good for the environment also. And here most of the charcoal production from wood is made by earth mount kilns. That is a very traditional technology. Then traditional systems for the crop residue conversion into biochar, promoting is usually sometimes I always tell farmers it is easy to buy directly biochar from somebody rather than producing yourself. I know each person is not a skilled person to do that job. There are something like let us Ramanad area in Tamil Nadu, or you come to Prakasham area in Andhra Pradesh. Like that, traditionally there are some people who know how to make it exactly, and their efficiency also very high. And here even if we ask a person as a farmer to produce some biochar with his own crop residue, apart from using some biomass for composting and other things, hardly he will be from 100 kgs from every 100 kgs of biomass with the existing traditional, on an average 20 to 30 kgs of biochar is produced usually. And inefficient biochar production technology should be replaced in a phased manner over a period. That government should take responsibility, because otherwise people will tend to do, once having seen its importance, they will use the existing technologies. Ongoing traditional biochar practices should be recognized and improved. Yes, it can be done. I have seen some of the best traditional technologies existing here. They are built using the local bricks and clay. And should be in situ biochar production should be encouraged, and large scale awareness on the pros and cons of biochar production as an environmental issue also, not to consume the other biomass in the name of this biochar production, like that we have to encourage. And this captive lands, people are thinking they could buy land and then use for biomass production, then they convert into biochar. That should also not be encouraged, because food first is the motive, and food security is most important. As per UNDP also, we have that SDG goal number 2. And to import biomass from another countries also, so we need to see what environmental consequences are happening in those countries. We should not make, like, for eating beef, we cannot lose the Amazon rainforest, something like that. So we have to see this balance, and a farmer could produce about 100 to 200 kgs of biochar from crop residue. This is in general for about on an average, whatever kind of crops the farmers cultivate. This is one thing. And here in the market, generally gardening, agriculture, household, that's where they are using already. Low price of biochar in the developing countries, it is existing, so that also triggers exports. So subsidies is a hindrance actually, because we are giving subsidies more towards other aspects which are not sustainable also. And the lack of awareness there in the market. And integrating biochar production application locally is likely to be a more sustainable practice than large-scale centralized production and dissemination. That is, we have to take care. And there is a need for greater research and development on biochar. All the biochar production technologies and application techniques should be under open knowledge. This is very, very important. For that reason, governments or international agencies should come forward with a common motive. Only then, under the CDM projects, how it had been done. Similarly, the effort should be made here. The efforts of all the companies and organizations involved in research should be compensated by either national or international agencies, and the components of biochar products should be revealed in the common interest. All the biochar products and blends should be made open along with the results. And standardization of the biochar product blends, terms or jargon should be made by a common agency. See, now the people who are selling biochar, I asked what is the term that you are using while packing and sending, transporting. To avoid the government taxation, these days they say it's a soil amendment, they say it's a garden soil enhancer. So they give different names just for selling it. They are not following any rules. So, and testing is very, very costly, and so that also need to be simplified. So there is no standard testing for biochar as of now, and there is a need to standardize the biochar products for the application to different types of soils and crops in different geographic regions and conditions. And that is also we have to map, and accordingly we have to suggest, and farmer is the right person to choose what they want also finally. And biochar as a product should be given top priority for usage rather than producing biochar exclusively. So this byproduct, so it means like we have to use that heat and other things, then we have to convert under pyrolysis some of the part as biochar, like that. So that is more sustainable rather than exclusively producing biochar technology. These are some of my communities who are working at the field level and producing, which I documented. One of the things which I would suggest, especially for in the Indian context, is we have NABARD and many other people, and we have FPOs, very good model, and cooperatives also, and local enterprises, which we want to under this Farm Bill 2020, many various aspects have come. So here under for biochar production, we could look into these aspects, enrolling people under MGNREGA. We have very good resource. People are already cutting this biomass, which is like exotic prosopis, gilubera, and all that under reclamation of lands. So the same people and their efforts can be linked for the biochar production. And centers of production of biochar in each village are the village where they have lots of fallow lands and this kind of biomass and crop residue. Locally they could allocate 1 to 2 acres of land for this as a center for production, and they could develop their own local fertilizers with the blends. This basic infrastructure like water and other shelter, other things could also be given. And some micro enterprises could be developed around that, using that heat that is generated, with which they could do some food processing and other things, products also. and networking with other FPOs in sharing the resources for continuous operation of the plant. So along with other villages or within the geographic area, they could network. And investment loan subsidies, incentives from government and other supporting agencies need to be looked into. The NABARD could play a very good role in this. The stubble burning is that issue that we already have as a major challenge. And carbon credits, etc. Already some schemes are there, so those could be linked for this aspect. And biochar production technology designs for small farmers should be cheap, efficient, mobile, and convenient for in situ production. This is also most important. And the cost of this technology is very, very high. And poor farmers need open source biochar production technologies and standards. And here is one of my farmer whom I trained to produce this biochar compost. Perfect, they have could get more than 100% of the yield, and they are doing very well now. And these are some of the farmers who applied, and you could see the result. And yesterday we had lots of discussion around it. But we could always address all the capitals like natural, social, human, physical, financial, and environment with the element called biochar, and which always helps the total system, the rural economies, the revival, everything can happen in a sustainable way. And here are some of my books which could be referred to, which are available online and free to download. Thank you very much.